guys. Welcome to our podcast, the Two Dope Black Doulas podcast. I'm Brittany Jones, and this is Danielle Watson Murray. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about our journeys to becoming doulas and what made us choose, to become a doula. So I'm going to have Danielle start and talking about what brought her on this journey to become a doula.
Yes. Thank you, Brittany. So, um, we mentioned, or we both mentioned on our previous podcast episode a little bit about our journey to motherhood, and I think we both had different journeys, but the same, in a bit when it comes to our experiences, being Black women in America, going through the healthcare process. So my journey to being a doula had literally 95% of how I had to advocate for myself, help advocate for family and friends during their time in pregnancy and labor and delivery, and realizing that it's not just a one off. So, as mentioned, I have three and one on the way. And the first one, he was born at 34 weeks. I was in the hospital for almost a month
Oh, wow.
because his heart rate was dipping. I was measuring small. It was a lot of medical jargon that a 24-year-old with a
Right.
college education was like, still like, what? I was so
Right.
confused.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times providers will ask you, like, do you have any questions? And you're like, I don't even know where to start. What does all of that mean?
Right.
All I knew was that I was measuring small at a regular, 2-week checkup appointment. So they were like, okay, we're going to send you to the hospital and let's make sure he's measuring okay. And I'm like, okay, sure. A lot of the answers I provided was always, okay, sure. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, fine. One of my sisters is a nurse, another one, or my other two sisters, social workers. So they came from New York and South Carolina, like basically regulating, like, you're not going to try to play our little sister. Like, this is what she needs. And I just kind of stayed in the bed. Like, I was just like, I'm
Right.
like, I'm the baby sister.
But
I'm
it was
like,
awesome that you had that support.
right, right. But if you,
Right.
again, think about it, it's like, it would have been great to have somebody near me to just be like, oh, this means this.
Right.
Danielle, what do you want to do? It was more like, this is happening to you versus like, yes, it's happening for me,
Yeah.
but it's happening to you. Yeah, just
With
go
you,
along with
like,
it.
yeah, happening with you. Like you're making the helping kind of guide those decisions based on like you and your body.
Exactly, exactly. So, again, I was in the hospital for almost a month. He was born early, but because he was a good eater, he went to the NICU, was on breathing tubes for like literally like an hour. They were like, oh, he's breathing on his own, he's fine. And he got out within 9 days. And it was just such a journey because again, my 24-year-old, 25-year-old mind was just like so confused. Postpartum was hitting. You have two young people trying to understand each other, their new bodies, their new environment. Again,
Right.
if I had someone like a doula to say, like, this is how you're going to do newborn care, and not that our families weren't there, being a doula or having a doula, especially a birth and or postpartum doula, it's just a different journey because it's a different kind of buy-in that
Mm.
doulas have for their clients. That family shouldn't cross certain lines. But
Mm-hmm.
doulas, they're like, you'll be fine. I'm going to cross this line because you need to make sure you're okay. Uh,
Right.
so I think that would, of course, been exceptional. So at that point, I was like, I don't understand how we don't have people to help us in that
Right.
realm, that realm. And at that
Right.
time, again, I was too young to not, realize this. But by the time I had my twins, a lot older, obviously, and doing research. And I was like, what is a doula? And I kept seeing that, especially with the increase in high Black mortality rate in Black maternal health care. I was like, I do not want to be a statistic. I looked up what a doula was and I was like, oh, I want that. And then you
Mm.
look at the prices and you're like, oh, insurance is not paying for this. No, thank you.
Right.
No, no,
Right.
no, thank you. No, thank you. I managed to, put some funds together and I had a doula, a postpartum doula, who helped with the twins and breastfeeding and such. And it was a godsend. Like I was very excited. We were excited to have her. And I remember asking her, like, what do you have to do this? And she's like, oh, I took a class. And I was like, and what else? And she's like, that's it. I was like, what? Look, I was like, what? Literally record scratch. I was like, oh, wait a minute. We can do this. Like,
Right.
I know babies. I am an aunt of like literally over a dozen. And I've been an aunt since I was 6 years old. So
Yes, so you have a little bit of experience in the
yeah,
game.
I was like, I've been swaddling babies since I was like 7. Not a
This is like
good
second nature to me.
right. I was like, I literally was like, wait a minute, I think I found my passion. And Brittany and I found a program. We didn't know each other before, but we found a program that was really great here in the Triangle, North Carolina area. And the program was 8 weeks. It was intense, but we learned so much, including hands-on training with going through, I think we're both at 4 or 5 births. I stopped
Hmm.
counting after 3. I think we're both at 5 births.
It's all a
So
blur. Late
it's
nights, early
literally a
morning.
blur. So yeah, and then even during that time, I had a niece who was pregnant with twins after I had my twins. And she lives in Connecticut, and I had to literally like be an advocate for her. Again, college educated, graduate level educated person and family. And she's like, I don't know what to do, Auntie. They're telling me this. I'm like, no, they shouldn't be telling you that. You
Right.
need to ask this, you need to ask that. And that's how we were able to get her twins here safely earthside. But it was things like that that was like a light bulb moment for me where again I was like, there's got to be something or someone that can help and be better support than what we're receiving at these providers and this healthcare system that's really not unfortunately built for us. And that's what brought me here to being a doula, which I love.
And we met, and it's awesome that we met through
I
this
know
whole
it was
program.
kismet.
Right.
So yeah, that's what brought me here to my journey. But Brittany, I know you have a good story as well.
Yeah, just to like piggyback off of like what you said, like it was my journey to becoming a doula, was part my own personal experience and then part of like what something like a passion that I've always had. So, growing up, I always wanted to be a doctor. I think at some point, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be a doctor, a lawyer. You're supposed to do something that makes
Again,
money, right?
White households, these are your options. You're like, okay, okay,
A lawyer.
right. Maybe a teacher, nurse. That's it. That's it.
Right, that's it. Nurse, yeah, nurse. So, I wanted to be an OBGYN, and I
Mm.
remember watching a baby story like very young and learning the terms and things.
They need to bring that show back. That show was life. Okay, okay.
Right. And I mean, like, I legit would like be like, oh, she had preeclampsia, and this is what
Right,
they're doing from, and my mom was like, yes, you go, baby, you go.
right. Look at my doctor. I love us.
Um, So, like when I got to school, like I'm one of the first generations of my family to go to college.
Yes.
Things were different for me. Where
Yeah.
I was in an environment before where I didn't have to study and was still top 10 in my class. I
Wow.
went to UNC, shout out Tar Heels.
Okay.
And yeah, it was like a rude awakening. Like, no, you're in a you're a fish in a big sea. So I ended up taking a different route. I ended up going psychology and focusing on mental health, but I still had that passion to help women and babies. And I was trying to figure out that passion. And I remember having a conversation with my friend who was recently pregnant. And I was telling her, I was like, I really have this passion. I don't know what to do with it. Like, I
Mm,
know right now I have kids, I have a mortgage, like I have all these things. And
right.
I can't go back. I can't go to medical school right now. Like I know that it just isn't in the
Right.
cards. Like what can I
When?
do? What is the low hanging fruit that I can reach? So I ended up being like, she was like, well, maybe you could be a doula, and I was like, you know what? Let me look into it. And I saw Dona. I went on Dona's website and I was like, ooh, that's
Mhm.
expensive. I can't. I can't
Right.
justify this to my husband. Like, how can
Right. That sticker shock will get you like, uh,
hey, this is needed and I need to do this. But at the same time, I ended up finding the program that we went through, and it was a program solely based for people with lived experience to help, other women who, like you said earlier, our women, Black women, have high mortality rates. So the program is designed to be a part of that solution in helping
Yes.
that decrease that mortality rate for Black women. So, and then I have my own personal experience
Yeah.
where with my two children, like I said in our first episode, where I had, came into this thing and they were like denying that I was even pregnant. So like
That was red flag number one. I was like, sorry, what?
right. And then I had so that experience, and then when after I had my son, I found out I had lupus. So navigating my pregnancy with my daughter looked a lot different, and it had a lot more involvement with medical professionals, and trying to navigate all of that, as a, I guess, quote unquote layperson, not knowing the terms and things that they're talking about. I realized that our people, especially people, most of, some of our people, we have all these medical complications like diabetes, lupus, high blood pressure. And, being able to like be in those spaces with those providers and being like, okay, I hear you saying, I need to start this medication for this, for my high blood pressure, but are there
Yeah.
any other options? What are other things that I can do to lower my, and just being able to like
Yes.
navigate that and not just take that, as an answer and be like, yes, I have to be the good patient and take this
Right.
pill. So kind of like drove me into like, realizing that being a doula or being in that space of being a doula and helping people
Yeah.
in that way was, really needed in our community. So
Yeah.
I think a lot about, really wanting to help people. And I think a lot about the birth experiences that I've had so
Ooh,
far and having to help, the people that I've worked with advocate for themselves and, everything. I had a client who was told her water didn't break, but her water broke,
right.
those types of things. And, she was sent home and, just being like, okay, these are the questions maybe you should ask. This may be,
Right.
something to consider when you're asking this question, type of
Right.
thing, to help people like understand they have choice in the matter, and it's not even just like, Danielle, you were talking about clients don't, some people who are giving birth, they don't understand sometimes that you don't have to lay on your back to labor and give
Sure
birth.
don't.
Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to
And
be what is medically you're seeing on
yeah,
TV. Like,
right. I was gonna say because in America, especially if you're giving birth in a hospital, it's like that's it. You put your feet in the stirrups, that's it. And I think a lot of times, 9 out of 10 times, we are not aware, like, hey, you can do it standing up. You can do it over a toilet. Like,
right.
if especially if the hospital allows it in the bathtub, obviously, if you are birthing at a birth center, you have a lot more options.
And laboring laying
Or
in bed is not even the best like option
it
for
actually,
progressing a labor and helping that
especially when
baby
you're
come
bad. Like, oh, I can't wait for us to talk about that. Like,
yes.
facts. Well, okay, I was gonna say let's tell the people because some people I feel like do not know what a doula is, including my
Yes.
family when I was going through it, and they would tell me,
Right.
I was like, "Ooh, I do not do that."
Very, very true. Very true.
Tell us a little bit, Brittany.
So, a doula is a person who provides emotional, physical, and educational support through your pregnancy and labor. So that person's there with you to
Yes,
help you, basically like a guide through your labor, to help provide supportive techniques, to help with comfort measures, because a lot of people think it's just the comfort, like me saying I don't want pain medication or I do
right.
want pain medication. But no, it's more than that. It's more of helping you understand your choices when you're interfacing with your doctors,
Yeah,
giving you kind of that like, hey, like let's consider this if, hey, I know you have an epidural and sometimes the doctors don't like for you to like get up and move when you have an epidural, but these are options that we can utilize to still help progress that labor even if you have to stay in the bed, for
exactly.
example. So
Right.
kind of helping you navigate the pregnancy and your labor.
100%. I realized I was like, oh, wait a minute, we did not go into full detail. because we just assume, and that's not true because
Right.
I know we do not. I'm gonna say it again for the people in the back. We do not provide clinical care. So we're not gonna be like,
No, ma'am.
oh, you need to do a C-section. No.
No, ma'am.
We are working with you, you and your family to make decisions and provide you tips on how to advocate for yourself.
Yes, and we do
Um,
not do cervical checks. We don't do anything, any
no blood
clinical.
pressure.
Right.
We're just going to advise you on how to help advocate for yourself. We'll go to a lot of doulas, including Brittany and I will go to like doctor's appointments with our clients. So we'll have full conversations before the doctor's appointment to say like, what are your asks today? What are your concerns today? Do you need help with the verbiage? Things of that nature, especially once you are in labor, helping you with your birth plan, reminding you like, hey, this was in your birth plan. This is what you wanted. Are we still going with that? We're also not placing our own views on you. So if, like, for example, I had a VBAC with my twins, and if someone's like, nope, I want to go straight to a C-section,
Right.
I don't want to try a VBAC. I'm not going to be like, oh, girl, it was easy. I'm like, that's what we're going to do.
Right.
Let's have a plan for that. And I think that's where it gets convoluted and a little confusing for a lot of people that don't know what a doula does, including some providers, including doctors and nurses. They're like, "Oh, you're about to come in here and make." Nope, I'm literally here like a wallflower and here
Right.
to support mom
Right,
or
right.
birthing
So I'm
person.
not here to make waves or anything like that. I'm just here for the mom and helping her to be able to like have the birth that she wants, have the birth,
Yeah.
experience that she wants. And to your point, Danielle, you mentioned about having, being in labor and having a doula. So when you're in labor, I mean, labor is like serious. I mean, like, if you're not having any pain medicine or pain medication, it can be a painful experience. So
Long, a
it,
paper long.
right. So sometimes it's hard to like be able to like navigate telling the doctors and things that you
Yes.
want, what
Yeah.
things that you want, or even remembering half of the stuff when you're like in pain and focus on bringing a healthy baby into the world. So that doula is there to help you remember those things that you said before that you wanted to like plan out and what you want your delivery to look like.
Exactly, exactly. I 100% gonna say it
Yeah.
better myself. What else do you want to say before we wrap up, Brittany?
I think I think that we're good. We just wanted to give you guys an insight on like what made us choose to be doulas and talk about our journey in being doulas thus far. Thank you for joining Two Dope Black Doulas, and we hope that you will join for future episodes. Thank you.